All right. I'm hoping that we're alive. I don't even have a title, but I'm just gonna jump in because I'll be taking too long trying to get this started. So I hope that I'm live. I'll probably have to post this again because we've been having some trouble. But this is the thing. I want to talk to y'all today about a subject concerning relationship counseling. I happen to specialize in relationship counseling, and there are some experts out there that have some information. One expert that I'm thinking of, and I wonder if you know about him, that has tools and research and everything put together from which they can be able to predict divorce just based on maybe an assessment. They can predict it. So there's questions that they're asking to where they can predict a divorce just based on assessment. Man, with those tools, some people can get out of a situation before they get married, just seeing the symptoms and things like that. But we're going to talk a little bit about that, y'all. And so I hope everything is streaming well. I hope everything has been going on well in your neighborhood. But this is This Week in Supervision, and we talk about these subjects and more. And the goal is to try to help individuals who are, working through their groups, people that have come out of our supervision training and things like that, but also to help other clinicians who are interested in understanding maybe how to build their practice skills. We're hoping that some of these things are helpful. And this is a clip of our training, or a link to our training, which we just had, which was awesome. Thank you all who came out. And we got another one on September 25th and 26th. And we've got bonuses in that will show you and teach you how to build up your supervision, your practice through supervision. So some of you all are wanting to build your practice through supervision. I have 4 groups. We talk about that. But let's jump into the subject here because we are running out of time already as soon as we started. All right. And so I want to share my screen a little bit. So I start off, I like to ask questions and things like that. Actually, I need to start doing some more other type of test questions. But this is how I started off the group, one of my groups, with some of this information here, because they were not, just like maybe some of you, aware of some of the evidence-based research that is out there on marriage. For some reason, a lot of us just didn't get a lot on marriage, in school and marriage counseling and things like that. And that's something that I think that needs to be highlighted in supervision, because we want our clinicians to be able to be well versed. And so I kind of just brought this information, and the question was like, who is this person? Okay, so the person that we're talking about is John Gottman. But according to Gottman, this is the question that was given in John Gottman's research on couples: how accurately can he predict divorce using his methodology? What do you think the answer is? All right. So the answer for this one actually is C, 90%. And when I first heard that, I thought he was some type of quack or something like that. I was like, that's impossible. But the more that I learned about Gottman, I started seeing like he's the real deal. And I started learning some of the techniques in order to where he can make this type of predictability, which is important for therapists and your supervisees to know, and us who are clinicians. And so one video I showed them, and hopefully I remember to put this in the chat, was a video on some of he mentions 4 different, they're called the 4 horsemen. And these are 4 different symptoms basically in a marriage to where you can see that the marriage is going south. And this is what he bases his predictability on. And so we showed that video. And from that video, we discovered that the worst of the 4, you have criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. The worst of these is, guess what? Is contempt. Is contempt. And so we went over what contempt looks like. Okay. So I'm going to play another clip, because another question that might be asked that I think is important to know, and we talked about so much, because we talked about with these, if we take criticisms, contempt, defensiveness, stonewall, even if we're counseling someone one-on-one, it can be a way to counsel them on how to predict not, or how to make the decision not to get in a relationship before it even happens. Know that these signs and the ones that we went over are signs and symptoms that the marriage might not work out. So if you're seeing certain things like someone who is very critical, someone who will just embarrass you in public, someone who demeans you, someone who is sarcastic, someone who really just has very little respect for you, you know, or for others, this might be something to, you know, to tell us like, hey, we may not want to move in that direction of getting in a relationship with this person. But this is an interesting video by the actual Gottmans. And they're talking a little bit about, so the question might be, if these things destroy a marriage, right? What is it, the things that have been found in research that sustain a marriage, and what does that look like? So I kind of asked the group questions about that. What do successful couples have that unsuccessful couples don't have? And so that's something you should ask yourself. What is it that they have? And let's see if they line up with what the Gottmans talk about. And so I'm gonna play this clip here if I can. Let me unshare and then share to make sure that we got the volume going on this. And you let me know what you think. Yo, they offer some sound advice. You should watch this whole video. I haven't watched the complete video, but they hand out a lot of nuggets in this video. And this is from the Gottmans. So let's hear what they got to say.
So when you've studied successful couples, and I'd love to get into the definition of what success looks like in a relationship in a second. Is it longevity? Is it not fighting? Is it not this, that? Because I know you guys have an answer for it. But when you study successful couples and successful relationship, how do they spiral upward? What are some of the foundational things that they have that unsuccessful relationships don't?
Yeah, well, Drew, first of all, we have very low standards for what is a master of relationships. Basically, it's people who are pretty much happy and stay together. That's it. They don't always feel happy necessarily, but they pretty much like each other and they go on staying together. They're committed to the relationship. And what we discovered is that in conflict, they begin the conflict discussion very differently. Instead of pointing their finger at their partner and being critical, they point their finger at themselves and talk about what they feel about a specific situation, and then what their positive need is, what they want, what they long for, what their own recipe is for being successful, how their partner can shine for them.
Should we role play it?
Sure. Why don't we do that?
Let's first start with how you shouldn't do it.
Right.
Okay, so you know what? I'm sick and tired of you never cleaning up the kitchen. It drives me crazy. What's the matter with you?
I know. I sometimes clean up the kitchen. Well, what do you mean I never clean up the kitchen? I do a lot of times. You just don't notice it.
Okay, there we have criticism and defensiveness.
Right.
Now we'll do it right. Honey, I'm really upset that the kitchen is a mess. Would you please clean it up this evening before we go to bed?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
See how simple? It's I feel about what's the situation. The kitchen is a mess. It's a fact. Then you say what your positive need is, which is how your partner can shine for you as opposed to what you resent your partner not doing.
Right, very good. And so the other thing is that even if their partner is critical, what we found, the masters, rather than getting defensive, they say, talk to me, you know, that's interesting that you feel that way. And, you know, maybe I can be kind of selfish sometimes or inconsiderate. So tell me what you're feeling and what you need. So rather than being defensive, they take some responsibility for a part of the problem and say, talk to me, baby. I want to know what you're thinking. So that's another great thing they do. They don't do contempt at all. It's pretty much zero.
All right, we're gonna stop it there. This is some good stuff, right? So the Gottmans, they talk about a lot of great stuff that you can do. And I don't know if you picked up what they were saying, but you know, let me get back my notes. But basically what they're suggesting is that you got to have a conversation. You've got to talk it out. Okay. And so what happens is a lot of times that our clients aren't able to talk things out well because they haven't come from secure environments. to where, like he said, like they did the demo, it's like, and the person said, well, I'm upset. Would you please, or would you mind, would you please remind, I'm sorry, or would you mind cleaning up for me? So a lot of times when we have had unhealthy styles of communicating, we don't even know how to respond to someone who is being critical. That's a critical statement. Our clients many times don't know, and this works, a lot of the stuff that I see with Gottman works on the individual level as well as the couples level, because if you didn't know how to communicate by yourself, when you get with somebody, that doesn't just change, right? So that meant that you were already having problems in close relationships and intimate relationships, in relationships with your parents, and relationship with your friends and things of that nature, right? And so, but what he said, the difference is, with the masters, the ones who've accomplished things well, is that they're really not going to have a defensive way of responding. Why? Because they're secure. And a lot of times it's because they're what? More trusting of others, right? And so he said some of the signs are that what? They handle things different. One of the differences is that the ones who aren't the masters don't do well with conflict. Right? You can't handle conflict. You're looking to point the finger at somebody else instead of looking at, it's like three more or something like that, pointed back at me. Right? That's what needs to happen first. And so what the Gottmans will do, and what I love to do with my couples, is that they will have the couples come and sit in front of, like, maybe even on I can't remember, maybe the first or second session, and you have them to discuss a topic that they have contention with one another about. And this is how you start to being able to predict, because you're trying to assess, are they having contempt? Are they having criticisms? Are they having defensiveness? Are they stonewalling? And once you're able to assess that, then you also get to see what their communication style is. Are they using I statements? Are they using generalizations? And so this helps to be able to provide you an assessment on how to treat them. One of the things that I want to leave with before we end, and we talked about a little bit this in therapy, in the session, is that when someone is well adjusted, when they are more secure in their attachment, let me see if I can share my screen real quick. When they're more secure in their attachment, they're less defensive. They handle conflict very differently. Why? Because they have less, and this is something by Lisa Nichols, they have less to hide, less to prove, less to protect, less to defend. So if I'm insecure about myself and me doing wrong or something like that, I may have something to hide. If I'm insecure, I may have something to prove. If I'm insecure, I might have something to protect. If I'm insecure, I may have something to defend. And so what I've been stressing with this, as we've been going over attachment style, is that we want to move our people to the level of, from, like, let's just say the worst case was a negative. We want to move them to the point to where they're feeling positive about themselves and positive about and trusting in relationships and looking at them positively. And the way that I'm starting to look at it is this: if you have somebody that's a negative, which is fearful avoidant, which is the one with the most complications, man, if you come to my therapy session, you see what I'm saying? And I start to move you to thinking more positive about yourself, which I think is a fundamental staple, is more positive about yourself. Then you start to learn and be concerned about what others have to say. Then I'm saying, like, I'm not saying they would move to dismissive avoidant, but I'm just saying if we get one positive in there about yourself, even if it's a negative, I'm feeling that that's a sign of progress. And the goal is to get that other negative out of there too. And we skip to secure, right? Which is something that can be learned, even though they say most of us pretty much stay where we are. But with counseling, we can be functional. And so this is what we talked about, amongst other things. I'm hoping that I got at least 15 minutes this time. Look, we're going to draw this to an end. I hope y'all have a great weekend, and we'll pick back up next week. Y'all take care. God bless.